At the family banquet, my son distributed osmanthus milk cakes to everyone. 8 milk cakes. 2 for father, 2 for sister, 2 for me, and the remaining 2 for mother. I extended my hand, beaming with a smile, but my son swiftly evaded my grasp. These are not for you. With that, he handed the last 2 cakes to the concubine, Ruoyun. My husband did not intervene. Instead, he observed with a grin. Ruoyun is both sensible and understanding. It is indeed a disservice to her to have her designated as a concubine. Xiai is quite fond of him too, and he often clamors to make her his son. In that moment, my heart sank. Thus, I summoned the long-dormant system, requesting to depart from the task realm. The system's cold voice reverberated in my mind. Application approved. The countdown begins. Hasten to accomplish what you have yet to undertake. I took a deep breath, rose to my feet, approached my son, and delivered a sharp slap across his face. You ungrateful wretch, your birth mother is still alive, yet you dare to call out to a lowly maid like that. The first time I heard my son call Ruoyun Mother Yun was a year ago, when he fell into the water and was rescued by her. When I rushed over, I heard him say, Aunt Yun, you are so warm, just like my mother. Ruoyun gently replied then, see, I shall call me Mother Yun from now on. My son laughed with great joy, calling out Mother Yun in his sweet, childish voice. Upon noticing my entrance, he quickly fell silent. From that day forth, he would frequently visit Ruoyun to play. She would treat him to his favorite hawthorn pastries and mare's milk cake. And each time he indulged, he would gleefully refer to her as mother. Mother, you are truly wonderful. My own mother never allows me to eat these treats. I wish you could be my mother. Ruoyun smiled softly as she stroked his head, whispering, Do not rush. Once your mother has passed, I shall become your mother. A chill ran down my spine as I stood at the door, my foot that had just stepped out hesitatingly retreating. At that moment, I heard my son laugh and ask, then, when do you think my mother will die? I gasped in horror and turned to leave. I could not comprehend why I felt such cowardice at that moment. Perhaps it was my inability to face the reality that my son, whom I had given my life to bring into this world, wished for my demise. I lacked the courage to confront the fact that, even as the principal wife, I was overshadowed by a mere concubine. Even more so, I was unprepared to face this cursed life. I had pondered whether my son's disdain for me stemmed from my strictness. However, I forbade him from eating hawthorn pastries because they caused him to have diarrhea, and I restricted mare's milk cake due to his susceptibility to rashes. I understood that this was an allergy. Yet, no matter how I explained, my husband, Xinjiao, refused to believe me. He insisted that he had experienced the same as a child and that indulging would do no harm. Consequently, I became the villainous mother who denied her child food. The system informed me that I had been married to Xinjiao for 5 years, and my progress in winning his favor had stagnated at 80, while my son's affection for me had dwindled to a mere 30. I was utterly speechless. I had always believed that my unbreakable bond with Xinxiai would secure my success without the need for further strategy. Yet, reality had proven me to be the greatest fool in the world. At that moment, the harmonious family banquet was abruptly silenced by my sudden outburst. Xinjiao cast a sidelong glance at me and demanded, Jiang Yuyao, what on earth are you doing? Apologize. I nodded, stepped forward, and said, Your Majesty, it is my son who lacks decorum. I beseech your majesty to forgive me. Let the crown prince dismiss me. 2. The hall fell into an immediate silence. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Before the emperor could respond, Xinjiao, in a foul mood, interjected, I do not agree. The crown princess is drunk. Ah Tao. He called for my personal maid, instructing her to take me outside to sober up. However, I had no intention of rising. I bowed thrice before the emperor and continued, I implore your majesty to grant me a divorce. Xinjiao stood up abruptly, yanking me off the ground with force. Do you not realize what day it is? Are you deliberately trying to irritate me? Our eyes locked, and I retorted, if it is irritating, so be it. Xinjiao clenched his teeth, but out of respect for the occasion and his princely status, he refrained from striking me, instead ordering that I be thrown out. The emperor's expression darkened considerably. It was then that Xinxiai stepped forward, attempting to cheer up his grandfather. Ah Tao said, Why must you go to such lengths? The crown prince and you are already at odds. Why do you not what? I interjected. Not take this opportunity to perform well and win his favor? Why should I? Having been married to Xinjiao for 5 years, I had yet to properly please myself. Throughout my life, I had been a pawn in my father's quest for power, a bargaining chip for the emperor to stabilize his reign, and merely an ornament for my husband. I had never been my own person. Given that my days in this world were numbered, why not act recklessly to find some semblance of comfort? I found a large, comfortable stone by the lake and sat down. The palace's night was eerily tranquil. Just as I sought a moment of peace, Ruoyun approached me. She had married into the household 3 years prior. When I first entered this task-oriented world, the system informed me that my mission was to win the crown prince's favor. And I was the designated crown princess, a title set in stone. I felt quite pleased. With such a connection, was there truly a need for strategy? However, it was on my wedding day that I learned the position of crown princess had originally been intended for another. My father had decreed that women of the Jiang family could not be concubines, only principal wives. Thus, the emperor ordered the death of Xinjiao's first love, leaving no one to contest the title with me. While there was no love between Xinjiao and me, we maintained a respectful distance. That was until he encountered Ruoyun during a tour. According to the attendants who accompanied him, the moment he laid eyes on her, he fell madly in love, exclaiming that she resembled my dear Ollie. A month later, he brought Ruoyun into our home and never looked back. Now, Ruoyun stood before me, looking down with an air of arrogance. To speak such words during a family banquet, do you truly wish for your own demise? Or are you attempting to vie for attention? I refused to look up and replied, "What business is it of yours?" "You," Ruoyun retorted, "if you wish to die, then do so on your own. To attract the prince's attention in such a manner is disgraceful. Jiang Yuyao, give up on that hope. The prince will never love you. Your son despises you, and you shall never surpass me in this lifetime." My heart turned cold, yet I refused to yield, declaring, "So what? Did you not see? Regardless of the competition, the prince is reluctant to divorce me." I raised my hand to adjust my hairpin, stating, "As long as he disagrees, I shall forever remain the principal wife and eventually the empress. No matter how favored you become, you will always be but a lowly concubine, essentially a servant." Ruoyun was driven to the edge of madness by my words. I, however, wore a playful grin. "I rather enjoy seeing you so filled with hatred for me yet unable to eliminate me." Ruoyun gritted her teeth, pointing at me. "Fine, you wish for a divorce? I will assist you." No sooner had she spoken than she hurled herself against a nearby large stone. Her frail body swayed precariously before collapsing to the ground, trembling all over. Almost simultaneously, Xinjiao and Xinxiai arrived. Upon seeing Ruoyun lying on the ground, her head bruised and bleeding, the two rushed over, with Xinxiai pushing me aside with all his might. "Ruoyun, mother!" Xinjiao exclaimed, "What happened?" He gathered Ruoyun in his arms, his eyes filled with a tenderness I had never witnessed in 5 years of marriage. My heart ached, and I said, "It was her own doing." "You lie!" Xinxiai cried, "You pushed her." "Mother, you pushed Ruoyun." "Wah, you have such a cruel heart. I do not want you as my mother. Hurry up and die. If you die, Ruoyun can be my mother." 3. My body trembled slightly, my heart swirling in turmoil. The last thread of restraint within me seemed to snap at that moment. When Xinxiai was 2 years old, he had once thrown a tantrum and shattered a cup. Fearing the shards might injure him, I rushed to clean up, only to accidentally slip and fall, my hand cut and bleeding. Despite being so young and innocent, Xinxiai suddenly grew quiet. He approached me, grasped my hand, and asked, "Mother, I'm sorry. Does it hurt? Let me blow on it." He blew gently on my wound, his little brow furrowed, his face filled with guilt and concern. Eventually, tears streamed down his cheeks. I tended to my injury and comforted him by stroking his head, saying, "It's all right, Mother is not hurt." That day, he nestled in my embrace for what felt like an eternity, like a soft, fluffy cotton candy that melted my heart. I cannot fathom why, in just over a year, my Osei transformed from a boy who gazed at me with adoration into one who now sees me as an adversary. He harbors a deep-seated resentment towards me for denying him food, for restricting his play, for causing his father embarrassment, and for the pain inflicted upon Yun Yang. My heart is both furious and aching. My hand, raised in anger, remains suspended in midair. Xinxiai stands defiantly, challenging me. "Go on. Strike me. If you kill me, I'll be reborn in Yunyang's womb. I never want you as my mother again. My hand, poised to fall, freezes. At that moment, Xinjiao strides over and pulls me back. You've already struck him once today. Do you wish to lay hands on him again? I once thought you charming and delightful, but when did you transform into a shrew? No wonder Xiai prefers Ruoyun. Shenxiai adds, father. She has harmed Yun Yang so gravely. Why won't you divorce her? Xinjiao's gaze pierces through me like a dagger, causing my heart to ache. Nevertheless, I have grown weary of their bickering. I simply state, I told you, I did not push her. Believe it or not. Xinjiao huffs in exasperation, Yuo. If you did push her, can you not admit it? Is it so difficult to tell the truth? Ci is only 4. Can he lie? If you have grievances, direct them towards me. Why take your anger out on Ruoyun? Ruoyun stifles a sob, saying, Your Highness, I am fine. As long as my sister is not angry, I am content. My life is of little value. It is not worth you jeopardizing your marital bond over me. Upon hearing this, Xinjiao's eyes grow red with concern. He points at me, venomously demanding, Have you made enough trouble? Quickly apologize to Ruoyun. If she forgives you, I will pretend nothing happened. And we can continue to live peacefully. I coldly tug at the corners of my mouth. With things having come to this, how could we still live harmoniously? Xinjiao glares at me, incredulous. Jiang Yuyo, do you even comprehend what you are saying? I mockingly retort. Do you think I am vying for your affections against this little harlot? Your Highness, you are mistaken. In my heart, you do not hold such significance. If you are truly infatuated with her, you may divorce me and take her as your wife. I can relinquish you and Ci. This world would continue to turn without either of you, and I would fare just as well outside the Crown Prince's residence. Xinjiao, incensed, seizes my chin. Jiang Yuyo, you have lost your mind. I meet his furious, reddened eyes and declare, word by word, yes, I am mad, but I have been mad for too long. If you do not divorce me, I will still plead with the Emperor for a separation. That very evening, Xinjiao imprisoned me under the pretext of my erratic behavior as the Crown Princess. I did not protest, but quietly endured the night. The following day, the kitchen sent me a day's worth of spoiled food. Starving and unable to bear it any longer, I exchanged some points for silver through the system and climbed over the high wall, escaping the residence. Before leaving, I also left a divorce decree. I had been in this task world for 5 years, my points always meager, and I had never been willing to exchange them for anything. In the real world, my mother pressured me to bind myself to the system to earn money for my brother's exorbitant dowry, as she could not afford it herself. Upon completing the task, I would receive a substantial commission. Growing up in a family that placed immense value on male offspring, I had developed a profound aversion to such treatment. And after enduring my mother's incessant nagging, I ceased to resist. In truth, when I first arrived here, I had harbored feelings for Xinjiao. Despite him neglecting to lift my bridal veil on our wedding night, he likely felt that having a crown princess necessitated him to behave as a proper husband. And he treated me with kindness. I had heard many tales of him and that elusive white moonlight of undying devotion, mutual support, and solemn vows, only for it to culminate in tragedy when a poison ended her life just as they were about to unite forever. I knew he would never love me in that manner. Yet, my system informed me that my favorability rating was on the rise, and I could sense his heart stirring. On a snowy winter day, as I built a snowman in the courtyard, he stood at the door watching me. Once the snowman was complete, he unexpectedly removed his hat and placed it atop the snowman's head. We exchanged smiles, and in that moment, his eyes sparkled like stars as he gazed at me. He would fret over me when I fell ill, break into joyous leaps upon learning of my pregnancy, exclaiming, I am going to be a father. He spent sleepless nights pacing outside my chamber when I was in labor. I still recall how he rushed in upon hearing the baby's first cry, grasping my hand and saying, Yuo, you have worked hard. He promised that we would only have this one child and would not have any more, for he felt an immense ache for my suffering. His furrowed brow was not particularly handsome, but I found it endearing. The system indicated that on that night, my favorability rating soared to nearly 90. It whispered to me, you are close to success. Yet, I felt a twinge of melancholy. Once successful, I would have to return home, and I was reluctant to leave. Perhaps it was because I had never been valued so deeply in my own home, and I found myself growing increasingly attached to Xinjiao. However, the moment Ruo Yun appeared, our love dissipated like mist, and my favorability rating plummeted. Initially, I jested that my husband feared losing me, hence his reluctance to love me too openly. Yet, as it fell below 50, I awakened to the harsh reality that he did not love me as I had wished. I came to realize I was not irreplaceable. I endeavored to maintain my dignity. But when Shen Xiai called out to Ruo Yun as mother, I crumbled completely. When Xin Zhao discovered my escape from the residence, I had already indulged in a sumptuous meal of braised lion's head and sweet and sour ribs at Xiangminlu, accompanied by a couple of drinks. Upon hearing that Xin Zhao was searching for me, I quickly concealed myself. I hid near the Jiang residence, waiting until I saw Xin Zhao's entourage depart before daring to show myself. My father, upon seeing me, nearly struck me. "You little rascal! Have you learned to run away from home now that you are the crown princess? And you dare to write a divorce letter to the crown prince? Who do you think you are?" I recoiled, avoiding my father's wrath. My mother approached and enveloped me in her embrace. There. Yuyo must have endured hardships to have escaped. I heard that the concubine named Ruo Yun, emboldened by her favor, has been causing a stir in the residence. Alas, I inquired. "Mother, how do you know?" She replied, "Everyone in the capital is talking about it, saying you are out of favor and that you are about to be deposed. Your father has been troubled for days and nights without rest." I understood that my father was concerned about his military power. Yet I couldn't help but feel tears welling in my eyes. Clutching my mother, I asked if I could stay at home a few more days. My mother tenderly caressed my face. "Look at you, you've grown so thin. Tomorrow, I'll cook for you myself. What would you like to eat?" I pondered and recalled the delicious wontons she made the night before my wedding, and without thinking, I exclaimed, "I want pork-filled ones." That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The following day, I awoke to the system notifying me that there were 5 days remaining until I would exit the task world. In 5 days, my body would succumb to a recurring ailment and swiftly deteriorate. I indulged in a long slumber, contemplating how I would respond if Xin Zhao came to the Jiang residence today. However, my father returned with news from outside. He revealed that Ruo Yun had fallen into a coma after suffering a head injury, and several imperial physicians had been summoned through the night, all declaring her condition grave, with little hope for recovery. Xin Zhao had stayed by her side all night, reportedly with dark circles under his eyes. I gasped softly, realizing I had been overly sentimental. It seemed Xin Zhao would no longer seek me out. Perhaps it was for the best. I could enjoy a few more days of freedom. 2 days elapsed, and I learned that my son, Shen Xiai, had completely indulged himself during a period of neglect, consuming whatever his heart desired, only to be struck by a sudden bout of diarrhea that plagued him throughout the night. Ruo Yun had just awakened from her coma, yet his devoted father seemed wholly unconcerned for her. Alone, Shen Xiai wept inconsolably, nearly succumbing to weakness from his affliction. When my father recounted this tale, his distress was palpable. He said, "Yuyo, I understand that you have endured some grievances, yet in marriage, especially in a royal union, how many are free from such burdens? You are no longer a young girl, but a mother now. You must consider your child's welfare. Can you bear to see ACI suffer?" My father's earnest words, laden with concern, scarcely registered with me. I replied, without my constant nagging at home, ACI was quite content. "Do not fret too much. Children possess remarkable resilience. Today he may be weak, but tomorrow he will be full of vigor. Rest assured." My father, exasperated, puffed in frustration and pointed accusingly at me, saying, "Continue your foolishness, and you shall come to regret it." 2 days before I was to depart from this task-laden world, Xin Zhao arrived once more, his countenance dark as he stood outside the Jiang residence. "Yuyo, how long do you intend to create this ruckus? Do you not realize that Ruo Yun has been rendered unconscious for several days due to your actions? Come with me back to the estate. I have no time for your nonsense." His morose demeanor struck me as amusing, and I inquired, "Is Ruo Yun feeling better? Otherwise, why would he even think of me?" After a moment, Xin Zhao replied, "ACI has not been well lately. He refused to eat yesterday, only expressing a desire for the meat floss pastries made by his mother." I lowered my gaze. If he wished for something, he could ask the kitchen to prepare it. I am not his servant. With that, I turned and returned to the estate, shutting the door behind me. The system informed me that Xin Zhao's and Xin Si's affection values had risen in the past few days, particularly at the instant I closed the door. When Xin Zhao's value surged to 80, it asked, "Do you wish to leave the task world early?" I slowly closed my eyes and replied yes. Xin Zhao's sudden affection value increase was unexpected, yet I found myself indifferent. I would not linger here out of fleeting pity for him. On the final day, I sent word to the estate, conveying the news of my grave illness to Xin Zhao. I needed him to see me, for I possessed something of great importance to give him. I heard that the crown prince was feeding Ruoyun her medicine, one spoonful at a time, cooling it before offering it to her lips. Suddenly, I recalled how, when I was ill years ago, Xin Zhao had similarly fed me medicine. Upon learning of my dire condition, he had impatiently asked, "Who knows what this Jiang Yuyo is up to?" He had set the medicine bowl down with a thud, exclaiming, "I saw her well yesterday. How can she be gravely ill today?" There is a limit to this nonsense. I am already exhausted from caring for Ruoyun. Must I also send someone to tend to her? After a moment of contemplation, he sighed, "Fine, I will come over shortly. After all, she is my first wife. The city is rife with rumors of me favoring a concubine over my wife. My visit may serve to quell these tales." As the news from the estate reached me, I was devoid of any emotional response regarding Xin Zhao. What he did not realize was that I was genuinely on the brink of death. My body had been slated for demise 5 years prior. It was the system's intervention that summoned me into her body and granted her an additional 5 years of life. Now that I was departing, she would inevitably vanish alongside me. When Xin Zhao arrived at my bedside and beheld my pallid visage, he was momentarily taken aback. You. Observing the panic and helplessness in his eyes, I found it somewhat amusing and managed to utter, "It is merely a recurrence of an old ailment, Your Highness." "I am dying." Xin Zhao suddenly knelt, grasping my hand, his trembling grip betraying his inability to maintain composure. "Yuyo, do not leave. I will fetch a physician immediately. Wait for me." With that, he sprang to his feet. I summoned every ounce of strength to clutch his hand tightly. "Your Highness, since you have never loved me, why must you act thus?" Xin Zhao froze, his body going rigid. "Your Highness, I know you do not love me. In fact, you may even hate me. If it were not for me, your Ali would not have perished. Over the years, I had truly invested my heart, and now, facing this fate, I held no regrets. I wish to depart. Please let me go." Xin Zhao collapsed in despair, enveloping me in his arms as tears streamed down his face, soaking me. How could this happen? How could this happen? Was it my neglect that led to your recurring illness? I managed a weak smile, my lips curling coldly. "Do not grieve. Your Highness. After my passing, you shall find happiness with Ruoyun and ACI. Xin Zhao was rendered speechless by his sobs. Held in his embrace, I could feel his entire being trembling. Suddenly, the system alerted me that Xin Zhao's affection value had surged to 99, on the brink of surpassing its limit. I found it perplexing. I had toiled for 5 years without evoking such a reaction from him. Yet, even if it reached 100, it would matter little. A dying me was beyond his reach. In the final moment, I withdrew a fragrant sachet from beneath my pillow and placed it in Xin Zhao's hand. "Remember to open it. It is of great significance." The system's voice echoed in my mind once more. The soul is departing. My vitality plummeted rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, my lips had turned pale. The system inquired, "Do you have any remaining wishes?" I pondered briefly and replied, "Then convert all my remaining points into currency." When the physician rushed in, my soul had already departed from Jiang Yuyo's body, floating above. "Your Highness, the Crown Princess has." Xin Zhao, in a frenzy, began hurling teacups and pots to the ground. "You dare declare her dead without even attempting to save her? You incompetent quacks." The physicians knelt in unison, pleading for mercy. "Your Highness, the Crown Princess is already cold. We mere mortals are powerless to reverse this fate." Xin Zhao breathed heavily, and after a lengthy silence, he slumped despondently to the ground, waving his hand dismissively at the physicians. "Begone." He remained seated by my bedside for a long while before finally speaking. "Yuo, do you recall the year you first married me? When I disappeared from the palace for half a month? At that time, everyone believed I had perished and would not return. My enemies stormed the estate, creating chaos, while my concubines and secondary wives fled in terror. Yet you stood at the entrance, like a guardian spirit. You declared, I am the crown princess, the daughter of a founding general. Should anyone take a step forward, I shall end my own life. Who would dare bear the consequences of such an act? Yuyo. I pondered why you were so brave. Eventually, I realized that as a sheltered young woman, you were willing to risk everything to protect our home. Upon returning, I saw the injuries upon you, and my heart ached. In that moment, I knew I had developed feelings for you. Xinjiao's voice was soft, yet every word resonated clearly. He continued, but Yuyo, I was conflicted and fearful. I felt that my love for you was a betrayal of Ali. I owe her too much. Xinjiao abruptly fell silent, lingering in contemplation for some time before slowly rising. Indeed, he dared not love me. Yet he harbored profound affection for Ruoyun, who bore an uncanny resemblance to Ali. His life was overshadowed by guilt for Ali's demise. He had failed to protect her, leading to her untimely death. In truth, he could seek redemption, should he choose to do so. However, he insisted on dragging me along. Xinjiao gazed at me for a while, as if recollecting a memory, before opening the pouch of fragrant sachets I had handed him. Inside was a withered little daisy and a minuscule porcelain vial. Xinjiao abruptly froze, lost in thought for a moment, as if summoning courage to unseal the tiny vial. Within it lay a medicine imbued with a hint of floral fragrance. Xinjiao swayed unsteadily, nearly toppling over. Once he steadied himself, clarity dawned upon him. Was this the medicine from 5 years ago? That very night, Xinjiao had ridden swiftly to seek out a renowned physician in the mountains. He had stated, 5 years ago, we consulted you for a false death potion. Could you please ascertain if this is it? The physician meticulously ground the medicine and scrutinized it. And at the moment he uttered the word yes, Xinjiao was suddenly overwhelmed, collapsing to the ground, unable to regain his composure for what felt like an eternity. 5 years prior, the emperor had ordered Ali's execution. To save her life, Xinjiao had come here seeking the physician's help, requesting a concoction of false death. This was his plan to escape undetected. However, when he eventually reached the mass grave where Ali lay, she had already succumbed, blood flowing from her orifices. This incident cast a shadow over Xinjiao's existence. Only now did he realize that Ali had never ingested that false death potion. Upon descending the mountain and returning home, dawn was just beginning to break. Ruoyun was in a fit of rage, reprimanding the mute servant by her side. The prince has been bewitched by that enchantress. She must be feigning illness to compete with me. She ought to consider whether she possesses the beauty to do so. Shenxiai, teary-eyed, rushed in, exclaiming, Mother, please stop scolding. I am frightened. What are you crying for? Useless. You can't help with anything and only know how to whimper. Go to sleep. I can't sleep, Shenxiai whined. Ruoyun pinched Shenxiai's cheek irritably. Ingrate. As Xinjiao entered the room, Ruoyun was taken aback. Your Highness? Why are you back? Xinjiao, with a dark expression, coldly replied, I have returned to my own home. Your permission is unnecessary. He continued, I see you seem much improved. You have the strength to strike the maids of the manor. Ruoyun awkwardly explained, It is because your Highness has cared for me well. What you may not know is that this mute servant disrespected me, and in my anger, I reacted. Xinjiao furrowed his brow, opening his mouth to speak, but found no words. At that moment, the mute servant, kneeling nearby, suddenly raised her head. Your Highness, I have diligently served Aunt Yun and have never shown disrespect. Yet, Aunt Yun repeatedly punishes me for having once served Miss Ailey, to the point that I can no longer endure it. I beseech your Highness to grant me death. Xinjiao was taken aback. You can speak? Ruoyun quickly reacted, lunging at the mute servant with a fierce slap. You little fraud. You've been pretending to be mute all this time. Speak. Who instructed you to feign? Seeing Ruoyun poised to strike again, Xinjiao swiftly intervened, pulling Ruoyun aside. He asked the mute servant, Have you finished? The mute servant bowed deeply before them. Your Highness, it was the crown princess who, seeing my plight, sought a physician to cure my muteness. I owe her my life, and thus I am bound to protect her. Aunt Yun, even if you were to kill me today, I must let your Highness know that on that day in the palace, it was you who collided with the stone, attempting to sow discord between the prince and his wife. Upon returning home, you refused to take the medicine the physician provided, leading the prince to worry for you daily, preventing him from visiting the gravely ill crown princess. What you have always sought is not favor, it is the position of crown princess. Ruo Yun gritted her teeth and charged forward, delivering a kick that sent the mute servant sprawling to the ground. Speak again, and I'll take your life. I dare not speak falsely. The mute servant quickly regained her composure, kneeling upright. Aunt Yun ordered my service precisely because I was mute, unable to reveal her vile deeds. Wretched girl. We have treated you well. How could you repay us with ingratitude? The mute servant scoffed. Sisters? You finally acknowledge that Miss Ailey is your sister? As the words left her lips, the entire world seemed to fall silent. Shen Zhao looked incredulously at the mute servant, and then at Ruo Yun. How could he have been so foolish? Ruo Yun and Ali bore an uncanny resemblance. What other possibility could there be if not that they were sisters? Moreover, Ali had once mentioned having a twin sister. He fixed his gaze on Ruo Yun, questioning her word by word. So, you have been deceiving me all along? Ruo Yun suddenly burst into laughter. When you came to the western regions, my father had arranged for me to greet you. But I was suddenly afflicted with unbearable stomach pain, and my sister took my place. Your Highness fell in love with her at first sight, traveling far and wide together, and ultimately wishing to make her the crown princess. Is that not my sister stealing my fate? Shen Zhao felt as though his very essence had been drained. His mind clouded. He gripped the edge of the table to steady himself. So, our encounter was also your design, was it? Indeed, Ruo Yun replied. Have I done wrong? I merely wished to reclaim what rightfully belonged to me. Clearly, I share the same blood with my sister, so why does no one love me? I must accomplish what my sister could not. I want to be the crown princess. I want them all to bow before me. Your Highness. Do you not love this face? Look, I am just as beautiful as my sister. She is dead, and Jiang Yueying has no right to compete with me. The position of crown princess is mine, and the future empress should rightfully be mine as well. Wretched girl. Shen Zhao, consumed by fury, struck out. His palm connected sharply, causing Ruo Yun to bleed from her mouth and nose. Shen Zhao trembled with rage. If Ali had not died, you would never have entered this manor. Do you understand? Wiping the blood from her lips, Ruo Yun laughed heartily. So I killed her. Ruo Yun laughed so hard she could barely remain standing. So I killed her. You all wanted her to feign death, did you not? To disappear and live happily ever after? Your plans were splendid. Yet you failed to anticipate that I had someone swap my sister's false death potion. She believed she could live to meet you, but instead, she embarked on her final journey. Shen Zhao clenched his fists, his eyes ablaze with fury. Just then, Ruo Yun suddenly drew a dagger from her waist, lunging toward Shen Zhao's chest. Your Highness, be careful. The mute servant dashed forward, shielding Shen Zhao. The dagger pierced her abdomen, and she collapsed, gasping for breath. Shen Zhao had no time to ponder. He swiftly drew his sword and slashed Ruo Yun's throat. She fell to the ground, convulsing for a moment before drawing her last breath. Shen Zhao attempted to lift the mute servant, but she refused his aid. I have no family. I grew up alongside Ali. When she died, my heart died with her. She continued, that false death potion was found in Ali's cabinet after her demise. From that moment on, I lived solely for revenge against those who wronged her. Unbeknownst to Shen Zhao, Ali had always belonged to me. When did it begin? Perhaps it was when I realized I was simultaneously rejected by my husband and son. Ruo Yun repeatedly tormented me, and just as I was preparing for retaliation, the mute servant appeared. She gestured and mimed until I grasped the gist of her words. Later, I sought the system, exchanging points for the medicine that would cure the mute servant's affliction. After we discovered Ali's true cause of death, the mute servant was eager to inform Shen Zhao. I stopped her, telling her that my time in this world was short. And given that the prince held no trust in me, he would only perceive my words as a frivolous bid for affection, never believing me. Only upon my demise, only when his trust in Ruo Yun gradually crumbled, and only when he began to feel guilt and regret, could this event deliver a fatal blow to both him and Ruo Yun. He would lament that he failed to protect Ali, and also regret having sought to rectify his mistakes with the wrong person. Yet, the two individuals who could truly offer him love had perished. He could not swallow the pill of regret. He was irrevocably trapped in this life. True devastation is silent. As dawn broke, Shen Zhao emerged from the room, his body and hands stained with blood. The system notified me that the countdown had ended, and my soul could return. A familiar voice echoed in my ears. 100, congratulations to the host for successfully completing the mission, earning a reward of 10 million yuan. When I received this sum, I found myself both amused and bewildered. Why did he only choose to offer his genuine heart once I no longer loved him? How ridiculous. Upon awakening in the real world, my parents and younger brother swarmed around me like vampires. My mother exclaimed, "How wonderful! My son can marry a stunning beauty." My brother inquired, "Sister, how much did you earn?" After a quick calculation of the reward and points exchange, I realized it amounted to over 10 million. I smiled. A failed mission left me with neither wealth nor life. Subsequently, amidst the scorn of my family, I fled hastily. After severing ties with that blood-sucking family, I completed my final year of university and then applied to study abroad. Everything progressed smoothly. Yet, I occasionally recalled the events that transpired in the mission world. I embraced a new life, made numerous friends, and discovered that the troubles that once plagued me were, in fact, trivial. I feared being eternally entangled with these parasites, struggling in the painful bonds of blood. But only now do I realize that completely breaking free from them is merely a matter of resolve, a fleeting moment. With the mission world behind me, I am determined to live splendidly in the real world. A year later, the system notified me that I could view Xin Zhao's final outcome in the mission world. I was eager to know. After my departure, Xin Zhao returned to the Jiang residence, hoping to catch a final glimpse of me and bid me farewell. However, my father firmly rejected him, stating, "My daughter instructed that she be turned to ashes before her death." He added, "Xin Zhao, you are unworthy to touch my daughter." As Xin Zhao rushed forward in tears, my body was already engulfed in flames. He knelt on the ground, weeping like a child who had erred. I listened as he poured out his heart, each word a confession of love. He truly regretted retracting his affection when he first fell for me, regretted seeking to compensate his love for Ollie on the wrong person, lamented having neglected me for too long, and regretted raising a son who was a heartless wretch. He uttered "I love you" more times than I had heard in 5 years. He said, "Yuyo, I am sorry. Only now do I realize that the most important thing in life is to cherish present happiness, but it seems I have understood too late. Yuyo, from now on, I shall never be happy again." My body quickly turned to ashes, and as I had predicted, my father scattered my ashes into the city moat. Xin Zhao sat by the river, sobbing uncontrollably. He questioned why I would not even leave him my ashes, why I did not wish to leave behind even a fragment of remembrance, denying him even the opportunity to pay his respects. He lamented, "Yuyo, it is evident that you are utterly disappointed in me. You harbor a deep hatred." However, the time left for Xin Zhao to regret was limited. Before her demise, Ruoyun had made meticulous preparations. Once Xin Zhao's misdeeds were revealed, she would be able to extricate herself seamlessly. She sold all the secrets she had acquired from Xin Zhao to the enemy state of the Xiongnu. Should Xin Zhao reject her, she could seek refuge with the Xiongnu, carving out a promising future for herself. Yet, in her final moments, she lost her wits, never anticipating that the mute would sacrifice his life to protect the man whom her sister cherished most in life. The secrets she sold to the Xiongnu ignited the greatest war. In the face of the Xiongnu's invasion, my father, the founding general, resigned from his position, claiming to be unwell from the profound loss of his beloved daughter, and returned home with my mother to cultivate the land. Observing my parents supporting each other, I felt a mix of emotions, both touched and sorrowful. I had always believed I was merely a political tool for my father. I had thought his unwavering loyalty to the court meant my death would not hinder his political ambitions. Yet, I was mistaken. My father truly abandoned hundreds of thousands of troops for my sake. Xin Zhao's pleas for my father to return to the fray were met with refusal. I suddenly recalled his words, "One must first care for their own household before tending to the realm. If one cannot sweep their own house, how can they govern the world?" Enraged, the emperor deposed Xin Zhao from his position as crown prince, commanding him to lead the army against the enemy, promising that only through victory could he redeem himself. Xin Zhao led his troops into battle for several months, suffering countless casualties. Eventually, he achieved victory, yet succumbed to exhaustion on his return journey. Upon hearing of his death, he was still uttering my name, Jiang Yuyo. In a matter of months, Xin Xi lost both his mother and father. The young boy soon realized that Ruoyun was the true villain. He became despondent, unable to focus on his studies by day, and restless at night. He approached the emperor, saying, "Grandfather, I miss my parents." The emperor ruffled his hair. In his final moments, when everyone anticipated he would designate Shenxiai as the crown prince, he instead concealed an edict behind a plaque in the court. In this edict, he bequeathed the throne to Xin Zhao's youngest brother, entirely severing any chance of Xin Zhao's lineage ascending to the throne. He declared, "Among my brothers, I love Xin Zhao the most, yet he is unworthy, and Shenxiai cannot distinguish right from wrong. Mistaking a thief for his mother, he cannot inherit the great legacy." Shenxiai was left dumbfounded, wandering aimlessly, rendered powerless. I returned once more to the real world. The system inquired, should there be another mission? Would you be willing to accept it? After a moment of contemplation, I replied I would, regardless of the world or circumstances. As long as it enables me or others to reclaim their true selves, that is the essence of my existence. The story concludes here. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next tale.